The Christological hymn in Philippians 2 does not support the Trinity. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion, and Philippians 2 verse 5 introduces a Christological hymn that some people think might have pre-existed Paul's use of it in this chapter of Philippians. But here are the first few verses from the NRSV UE. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, who, though he existed in the form of God, did not regard equality with God as something to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a slave, assuming human likeness, and being found in appearance as a human. Now, the Greek word that is translated here twice as form is morphe, which generally refers to outward form or appearance. But apologists and theologians for a very long time have argued that this can also refer to the essence that underlies that outward form or appearance. This is a minority view, however. Scholars for decades now have recognized that this does not make good sense of the use of this word in the time period in which Philippians was composed. And criticism of this view goes back to the late 20th century. And here's just one example from this paper by Marcus Bachmuel, The Form of God, Variations on a Theme of Jewish Mysticism. And Bachmuel concludes that this was really just speaking about the Lord's majesty and greatness by alluding to the inconceivable size and beauty of his bodily appearance. And the consensus view is also represented in some much more recent publications. So here is Paul Holloway's Philippians commentary from the Hermeneia commentary series. This was published in 2017. And on page 118 we read, "To say then, as Paul does, that Christ existed in the form of God is simply to say that, prior to his self-humbling metamorphosis, Christ enjoyed a luminous appearance of the sort a powerful angel might possess." Then from 2021, Reuben Booner's book, Messianic High Christology, notes regarding this reading, second, scholars have argued that morphe in verses 6 and 7 should be interpreted as essence, as Daseinsweise, or as that which truly characterizes a given reality. Such interpretations come close to the later discussions about Christ's ontology or essence, but it is hard to find evidence that such an understanding of morphe was common before the Christological debates of the 3rd and 4th centuries. And then we have from 2022, Andrew Perriman's study of this precise clause, in the form of a God, the preexistence of the exalted Christ in Paul. And there's a whole chapter dedicated to what it means to be in the form of a God. And Perriman concludes, it seems unlikely, in light of the preceding discussion, that Paul would have intended morphe theou as a reference to the being or some essential attribute of God. There is no evidence, even in the more esoteric literature, that morphe was ever used in such an abstract sense. The thought is consistently of the outward appearance of an object or being, not of some inner quality. Moreover, the association of the term with pagan religious practice and discourse, on which more later, probably marked it as singularly inappropriate for speaking about the one God of Jewish belief. So perhaps we are indeed to think of the form of God in more human terms. We shall see. And if you go on in Perriman's book, he discusses this hymn as a reflection of this notion of Jesus having the status of a deity in the eyes of pagans. So no, Philippians 2 verse 6, in referring to Jesus as having the form of God or the form of a God, does not refer to divine essence or being, does not reflect the Trinitarian notion that Jesus is the second person of the one being of God. In other words, it does not support the Trinity. And the fit for this video has been, those called Romans, they go the house.